Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's been so long since I've been on a live. My name is Anna. I am the creator here on Savoring the Indo-Caribbean. And tonight we have a really special deeper dive conversation with Jeremy Persaud. I'm really excited about this conversation for lots of reasons. About a year ago, it's crazy to believe it's been a year already, Jeremy. I see you hopping on here. It's crazy to believe that it's been a year since we've had our last conversation. Spoke with Jeremy about the underrepresentation of Indo-Caribbean youth. We talked a little bit about the Indo-Caribbean male identity and how it relates to his lived experience. And it was such a great conversation, and I think it's always been really important for us here at Savoring the Indo-Caribbean to bring forward topics that are meaningful to the community, and to have conversations that may not take place in our communities. So today I'll have Jeremy Persaud, who's the founder of the Commitment Program. Jeremy has instituted programs within his community, including fitness programs, basketball tournaments. He's a huge organizer within his community to give back. I've had the pleasure of working with Jeremy. I've also had the pleasure of being a peer to Jeremy through school, and we go way back. So I'm super excited to have him today. The last conversation that we had, again, almost a year ago, we received such great feedback, and so I'm so glad to have him here today to share his insights. We'll be speaking a little bit about violence and trauma in community, specifically in Toronto. We'll get to know him a little bit better, but we're also going to be talking about, the violence in Toronto and, how it's increased, how it's changed, is part of the culture here in Toronto, what's really going on, some of the root causes, some of the challenges, and something that we don't talk about enough is the traumas that evolve from some of these instances, and the lack of support and resources that are very much unacknowledged. So today I'm so glad to be in conversation with Jeremy, and I'm going to have him join us, invite him as he hops on. I just want to have a really honest conversation around some of this. Can be a little bit difficult to hear or to have conversations about. So if at any point you need time and space to kind of step back from the conversation or listening to the conversation, please take the time you need to do that. Some of the conversations can be triggering, and I know a lot of this is really complex and difficult. So I just want to remind you that you have the space to put down the phone if you need to, and to join the conversation as you see fit. We'll pick up any questions or comments. I'll read them through, and I'm having trouble accepting Jeremy, so we'll see if that works. It says that he's unable to join, so let's try again. Jeremy, I'm inviting you. See if you got that invite.
Hey.
Oh, I hear you, but I don't see you.
Can you see me now?
I can see you now. There you are.
Hey, how's it going? I'm here
Good.
joining you live from Centennial College campus.
Yes. Getting that education. I'm so excited to hear more about that, by the way. Thank you for joining me today and being in conversation. I was just giving such big thanks to the last conversation that we had, because Jeremy, I got such great feedback from the community. I think a lot of it was because these conversations they're not really had within our Indo-Caribbean space, but also your vulnerability, your capacity to express yourself in a way that met a lot, specifically male identified Indo-Caribbean individuals. And so I don't know if I probably told you, but I just want to sing your praise again live here with me. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so glad to have you back and to have this conversation with you around violence and trauma in our community. And before I begin, though, I wanted you to tell everybody, I know you, and I forget everybody else doesn't know you. But tell us a little bit more about yourself and tell us what you've been up to so far.
Yeah, so my name's Jeremy Persaud. I'm 33 years old, born and raised in Toronto. My parents are from Guyana, so big up to all my Guyanese people out there. You don't know. Right now, I'm currently back to school in my third and final year of the broadcasting program, and yeah, we just transitioned to back to school, and in the summertime, we I just did like the 10th anniversary of our basketball tournament. So that was a good, successful event, and I'm glad I was able to keep doing it for this amount of years. It takes a lot to do it sometimes, and it can be discouraging, but we're gonna keep going and we're gonna keep fighting and pushing, and that's why we're here.
One of the things that I will also say live on this platform and to you personally as well is that every time, Jeremy, that you do your basketball tournament and I see the videos and I see the outcome, it actually makes me really emotional. For someone who's grown up with you and to see the work that you're being done, one is obviously so inspirational. And then to see the impact that you're making on the community there just brings me right back home. And so I sing your praise and I thank you for the work that you're doing because it's soul work, it's community work, and it takes a special type of person to do it. So
Thank you,
uh,
thank you.
just want to say that.
Yeah, couldn't do it by myself. I get a lot of support. So ever since I've been trying to do a lot of positive things, a lot of people have been gravitating towards that. So I owe it to all these people that influence me as well because they play a major part in that as well.
I love that. And I think that's the work of community, right? That is the essence of why we do what we do and how it actually ends up getting done because we don't have enough time, resources, skill capacities, can't be one person, and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's the true essence of community building. And again, I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. And one of the things that really struck me with our last conversation and the feedback that I got from people as they were letting me know their thoughts about our conversation is the vulnerability you brought to the space. And so I'm sure tonight will be no different. And so I'm looking forward to us having this conversation around violence in Toronto, specifically within our communities and what we can do about it. And I know you have a lot of thoughts and ideas around this. So if we can just step back, and I would first like to hear a little bit more about your perspective on the violence in Toronto. What does that feel like, look like, and how does that perceived by you?
Um, I guess taking a step back into my perspective, like I could say it's there's a problem. There's definitely a problem out here. I feel like a lot of times when you read the newspaper, the news, they try to like play this numbers game with it, where it's like they try to compare it to the states or whatever and try to say, oh yeah, Toronto's one of the safest cities. But every year there's like about 100 homicides guaranteed, like around Toronto, and that's not including like Mississauga, Brampton, the GTA. So they try to play this numbers game with the Toronto thing, and I just think like it's at an all-time high in a way because the younger generation, um, they're just more like immune and numb to it compared to maybe like the older generation where like people used to fist fight and stuff like that. So when it comes to Toronto, I love my city, and I always say this, there's like two types of the city, two sides to it. Like some people are super oblivious to the violence and they go certain places that I wouldn't go, because me, I'm just conscious and aware of what's going on. So that's just like Toronto's beautiful and ugly at the same time.
Yeah, and I was recently reading, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, that actually guns, for example, if we want to just go in that route, youth and their possession of guns is at an all-time high, and it's a form of protection in a way that it has never, like you're mentioning, has like it's never been. And violence within that demographic specifically is increasing. And so you have to wonder, okay, how do how do they have access? How does this happen? And the normalization of it that you just beautifully mentioned. It's a really interesting thing to look back and wonder, like, how did that actually happen? So I mean, so a probing question I have for you is like, why do you think that within, if we just focus on youth, we focus on gun violence, why do you think that is? Why does it feel so normal, do you think?
I think there's like a lot of history of things that happened in the past, and like a lot of blood has been shed. Toronto is very like area separated, like segregated. They call it the screw face capital, and so there's a lot of, like say a lot of people have cousins from an area, they don't even mess with their cousins. So that's the thing, like, and it's just a thin line between the streets and jail too. Like if you're living that lifestyle, and then when you go to jail, you just get more deep into it because you have to, like, you can't just sit around and be like, no, I'm just trying to do my time. You kind of have to get involved a little bit, and that little bit is just enough. Like, I mean, like why it's so much, maybe like the hip hop culture, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's like like just the advancements and stuff, like what I think is a problem is like, yeah, these young boys, they have it, right? So it is what it is. Like I can't tell you how they get it. I don't know, like these things, like there's things beyond like my knowledge, and
Mm-hmm.
but when I watch the news and what I see is that, yeah, every day something's happening. And I think like people maybe, like I felt like this before where I didn't want it to happen to me. So it's like, you have to just kind of be ready for the unexpected, when a lot of people might tell me, you're tripping, nothing's gonna happen, everything's good, relax. But it's just because of what I see going on in the news in Toronto, and yeah, with my own eyes as well.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things you mentioned was a particular lifestyle, um, and that, I guess, uh, yeah, the way that they perceive that lifestyle and the ways in which it shows up in their immediate home, the societal culture, and all that sort of stuff. So, thinking about Toronto by itself, is this part of Toronto culture? This whole idea of you need to be this way, or you need to be protected, or you need to act a certain way. What do you think about how violence is connected with the culture of Toronto?
I don't think like it identifies as it. I think like I like told you before, I think Toronto has two sides to it, where it's very beautiful and very ugly. I think when you really know how ugly it is and your eyes are open to that, then you can't see it as beautiful no more, you
Mm.
know? And one thing that like is stepped up, is ramped up to a different level, and that's the only thing I could blame. Like if you think about like Toronto culture, like, yeah, like right now it's like technology and stuff is advancing, right? So like even in the gun stuff, it's advancing too. So now there's something called switches. So switches could turn something that's not automatic to automatic. So like you can
Mm-hmm.
get killed even faster. So maybe that's something to do with the culture, because ever since the switches came out, now everybody has switches. So then it's just different. Yeah.
That is such an interesting perspective around the technology and the access to knowledge in that way. Um, you know, and I'm going to ask you this question, and Jeremy, feel free to answer as you see fit. I want you to feel like this is a safe space for you. Um, and so please don't share anything you feel uncomfortable sharing. I'm curious around your experience, and has, for example, violence in the community affected you personally?
Yeah, for sure. Like this year someone was killed in my neighborhood, like right outside of my doorstep. And RIP to Jaron. And it's so crazy because every time I talk about this, I might tell someone, hey, it could have been me. I don't want to take away from uh the slain youth, and I don't want to make things about me. But some people might assume like I'm trying to make it about me or whatever. But like sometimes like I literally feel like it could have been me, you know? That's my sidewalk where I walk. And that youth isn't even from the neighborhood. It was Father's Day, and his father was having a barbecue, and all the fathers were there together. And, you know, he was just like a couple steps away from being reunited with his father and the family, but he just never made it just because of this bullshit that's going on. And the same thing, the switches, you know, because he got hit like a lot of times. And so like it affected me personally because like I had school the next day. I had projects due that I was trying to complete that day. I mean, everything that you thought you had to do just goes on pause. You know, you're just like, this thing is so real. I mean, you know, being honest, I seen the body, you know, I seen the head, the brains and stuff. You know, I was probably one of the first persons that seen that, you know? So at the end of the day, like every day I have to walk my dog past this spot where this guy dropped out, and there's like a little candle vigil over there. And like, yeah, it's just the reality of it, like, you know, and it couldn't get more closer to home than that, you know? And so some people, they might say, okay, if it wasn't them, you know, they'll be like, okay, at least it wasn't us. It was, at least it wasn't my friends. But for me, like the whole block is my people's, and everybody's my family. I guess as a community leader, you kind of like take on that everybody has your family and stuff. So like, you know, that one hurt me because, you know, it's like it shouldn't have been him. It shouldn't have been me. It shouldn't have been anyone. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just some people out there that I don't know, like they're just doing this for like, you know, they're doing it out of adrenaline, out of anger, you know, because I kind of like, I don't know why they're doing it, but like, if you put yourself in their shoes, they're doing life now. They got caught. This guy's dead. It's a lose lose, you know? So that's why I kind of try to just do what I'm doing, the positive stuff, and try to show youth that, you know, like when I back in the days, I was on my thing. Like, you know, I got charged for firearms, you know? So at the end of the day, I could say that because I pled guilty. I did my time, you know? And yeah, like not everything about the streets is to be told, you know? So there's only so much that I'm gonna say. But at the end of the day, like this stuff affects me. And the next day I have to go back to school, you know, and I might be not functioning properly, or, you know, my head's not all there. You know, I might be late to handing my assignment because this thing just happened. And, you know, not everybody is like empathetic, or if that's the word, you know. So some people, life just goes on for some people, you know. So like the grieving process and the times are shorter and shorter nowadays because the funerals are like weekly, like how people go to the clubs or going to funerals, you know. So like it's not a good look when it's like that. And you know, reality like sinks in for me in those situations. Like life is not a joke for me. Like sometimes I forget how to have fun because of this stuff, you know? But hey man, that's my perspective.
Yeah, and you know, you said it well when you said it literally hits home for you, because that was an experience that was really right in front of your eyes. And Jeremy, my heart goes out to you, and my heart goes out to everyone in the community. And I think that that's the part of the narrative we don't hear enough, right? Is how these instances have ripple effects and how it perpetuates the traumas that we already bear, the grief we already carry and we already bear. And you know, that's the part of the story that we don't really think about. And we, you know, there's all these conversations around what can we do, whose fault is it, and it's those stories of, you know, you not being able to finish your assignment, you not having the capacity to navigate the next day, and then being re-traumatized every time you pass that space again, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are real life feelings for people who are there, who are living within community, and who are affected by some of these instances. And we talked a little bit about some of the root causes and why this could be. And I mean, I feel like if we had like a magic wand, we could just like, here you go, like fix everything.
Yeah.
But it feels as though there's not really a fix, and it's taking us a long time to get there. So, from your perspective, from the conversations that you've had, the way you've internalized and reflected around some of these circumstances, what do you feel are some of the root causes of some of these situations?
Um, I think some of the root causes, like I would say, like it's a lot of that same stuff, like not able to grieve or heal. Like think about the mothers that lose their son or their daughters or whatever, and like if a brother lost his brother, like this stuff happens. I mean, blood has been shed. The root causes are because blood has been shed already. So some people, like, if you lost somebody, like, it's just crazy. Like, there's no limits to what you would do. But at the same time, like, it's poverty. It's a lot of it is self-hate.
Mm.
A lot of times the person that you're looking for might look similar to you, and it's a reflection of self-hate because we were kind of taught to hate each other. Like, even in the music, the whole narrative is just like, it's kind of like that, where it's just kind of like that, and like a male ego thing too. It's a big male ego thing. And then alcohol and guns don't mix either. So I just think, like, for violence, yeah, like a lot of people, they're angry. They're the poverty or whatever has them angry. I don't know if maybe sometimes it's over females, you know but at the end of the day, like, a lot of healing needs to be done before, like, you can stop those things. Because like I have anger issues myself. I'm working on it. Like, I'm not perfect, you know and like that's one thing that I don't like about myself, because I could lose control. I might have everything so put together for 6 out of 7 days, and I might just have like a day where I'm just snap, and like it's bad. I might punch the wall and stuff, and punch holes in the wall. Like, the wall doesn't deserve that, you know? So it's just like, yeah, like the root causes is very deep. It starts in the hoods, it starts in the communities, grassroots level. There's nothing like much for the youths to do nowadays. And it's just like, if you get in trouble, you end up in the system, you become like a victim to the system as well, because
Mm.
it's very hard to get out of that system. And say if you get like a little minor charge, you catch a breach, any little thing, you end up in jail now. In jail, there's like super gangs now. Like, what I mean by super gangs is like, yo, like, they got areas linking with other areas. I see in the comments, my boy said it starts in the family, the upbringing, and that's true. The root causes are in the home. Like, the homes are broken, and like poverty's going on. People are angry. They're leaving out their house angry and miserable and pissed, and they're just reflecting that on other people. They're projecting their insecurities and their frustration on other people. You know what I'm saying? And I just think, like, yeah, like, it's hard to like have like a big kumbaya moment with everybody, right? But I think what we could do is, like, we gotta take like a couple, like, when you see a youth with potential, you have to reach out. You gotta help that youth, because that can make the difference. Within this youth could catch a body and go to jail for life, or they could like find something they like to do. What if they like to be a chef, or they like to make video games, or like, there's so many things that these kids could do, but I think their opportunities are so limited. But you know what is there? There's YouTube, there's TikTok, there's like, there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's people that are in the hood. Like, I just realized this, like, when we're growing up in the neighborhood and we're seeing the guys outside, and like we thought that was cool. But honestly, it's like they didn't have nothing else to do. So they're outside, and then we're looking at the guys that ain't doing nothing, so how are you looking up to someone that's not doing nothing, you know? So at the end of the day, like our role models were out of whack, all of these things. So it's a real it's a real root problem for real, you know, where it starts with the mind. And like if someone doesn't know nothing else different, how are they gonna do something different? If all you know is drugs and murder and trap houses and you know, hustling, and that's all you're gonna know. That's if you're looking at Instagram and all your timeline feed is talking about beef and politics and like, you know, you're just clouding up your own brain, you know? Like you need a lot of people just need to like realize that this world is big and there's a whole world out there and there's like a whole bunch of things to do, you know, and it's way bigger than the hood. Like me myself, I'm still struggling with this because like I still live in the hood. You know, me and my friends argue about this till the sun comes up, you know, where they say, yo, you need to move out of here. You know, you need to move out. Look what's going on. And I'm like, oh, I'm the community leader. I don't want to leave my people behind. You know, I want to be there. Like, because not everybody could have this position, and not saying bragging about my position either. It's just saying that it's hard to like be someone that people respect. You know, a lot of younger guys don't respect the older guys from my neighborhood. You know, I'm just lucky, I'm fortunate to have like this respect from everybody in my neighborhood that if I have a tournament, everybody's supporting, everybody's showing up. I don't really have like a bad name, you know, because I try my best to be to do my thing and keep it real, but I'm not perfect either. If I have one flaw, I'm in a magnifying glass of people, you know, and I come from a rough background. So it's easy for someone to say like, oh, that guy's the community leader. How? Look at him. He does this or he does that. It's easy to judge, but at the end of the day, I'm trying my best. And if it's not for me, then I don't know who's like I'm passing the torch down to, you know? Because like I don't really see no other youth trying to do what I'm doing, you know? And so it kind of hurts me sometimes to think that if I was to move out or if I was to move on, that a summer is gonna go by with no basketball tournament. Obviously, it can still come back, you know, and still do my thing. But you know, like it's just like a battle right now with that, you know.
And I can only imagine that internal struggle that you must be having, Jeremy. And this is why I love having you on, because you've touched on so many aspects there of root causes that needs its own life, right? You
Mm,
talked about the male ego. You talked about, you know, that self-hatred that can perpetuate some of these ideas about who we need to be within society. You touched upon, you know, one of the things I love when you talk about is this idea of empowerment and the capacity to think about ourselves in the roles that we have and create a better option for ourselves. And I think things like YouTube and pop culture and all the access that youth have and in general we have, and the environments that we are grown up in, all perpetuate this idea that we have no option, right? And I think that is for me one of the things that really makes me sad. And you mentioned this, it's like somehow we need to get to a place where youth, people, individuals understand how big this world is. And that is such a different, that is not a skill that you can teach. That's healing. That's self work. And so I guess we talked a little bit about, you know, the traumas that some of us bear in living within those communities and, you know, having access to some of this information. Talk to me a little bit more about the trauma. Like, how does it actually play out? Like, you specifically talked about your experience. Tell me more a little bit about how that trauma really perpetuates within the person, within the families, within the community.
so one thing I could say is like it's hard to explain what you feel. You know, like I once told a therapist that I think I have anxiety, and they told me, no, you don't. Like, you know, people say you're not diagnosed. Like, on paper, like by a doctor or whatever. And I'll be like, yo, I don't know what you guys think. Cause like when you're a guy like me and there's shootings happening every day and whatever, like people just assume that, oh, you're used to it. You know, even when I come to school and I tell someone like, yeah, someone got shot yesterday, whatever, they'd be like, oh, who died this time? Like who died this week, you know? So some people they're just like not helpful. So when it comes to trauma, the trauma is crippling. Like think about like if I'm walking outside and I see a car driving weird, I'm like, I don't know, like I'm already thinking I'm gonna die. And maybe I'm exaggerating my words, but like I have feelings sometimes where like I don't know, I see a car moving funny and I'm just like I'm moving funny now. You know,
Yeah.
so anxiety is real and like the trauma is real. You got families that are hurting. There's even families that have multiple of their siblings that get killed. You know what I'm saying? So like I have a friend that he lost his two twin brothers, you know, and not at the same time, but you know, I don't want to be too specific when I speak right now on the I Instagram platform is very public, you know? But at the end of the day, like I've seen firsthand like trauma, like and it's not something that you could just recover from. You just lose their friend and then you just get over it. You know, and some people be like, oh, it'll be okay. Everything will be okay. But how do you tell that to a mother that lost their son? You know what I mean? So there's no support I feel like from Toronto as well, the city. You know, like they have stuff like where the police try to do like victims compensation or whatever, but they just really when they make you look like a rat or whatever and you can get killed for that. You don't want to take no help from no police. It's not a good look, you know? So it's
And aside from it being a good look, is it helpful?
like
Anyway.
honestly they'll be very intrusive, you know? There's no point. Like it adds to the trauma. Like if you're traumatized, like you want your space to heal and you got all these people in your business and in your face, like it's not helping. So, you know, I just think there's a lot of mental health issues caused by this. There's a lot of anxiety, you know, there's a lot of you know, like racial like tension going on. Like, you know, there's a lot of white policemen in the black or brown communities that never lived around black people or brown people. So as soon as they see a couple of them, they just assume that's a gang or whatever. They're just scared. They don't know how to deal with us. You know, they're quick to shoot us because they might think we have it or whatever for no reason. You know, so I just like yo, like when it comes to the trauma, I feel it and I'm grieving from all the people I lost still. And for everyone that's going through it, I feel your pain, you know, and sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be the same again,
Mm.
you know?
That's real talk, Jeremy. And I think it comes from a really self-aware space for someone to be able to say this is the reality of the situation, this is the way that it affects me and the pain that we feel. And I think going back to the conversation about trauma, and we sort of talked a little bit about the family structure, and you mentioned this about a grieving mother, for example. You consider how one incident can affect an entire family, and when that family is held up by parents who are also suffering from trauma, from experiences, you wonder their capacity to actually raise their children and be there for their children emotionally. We know that, for example, in order for us to have good mental health, we need to have been modeled it. We would have had to have felt it from our own parents to really understand what that can look like for us. And so we think about it from that perspective in a family unit. We talk about it, how it perpetuates in generation and generation to come. It's like, where's the breather then? If, one family, you're affected one time by all these instances and you're triggered every time, you're traumatized every time, how does that actually help or how does a family actually move forward. And you mentioned for yourself this fact of sometimes you actually have to move out of the community, but then how do you have the resources to do that? One, and two, it's like why you for example, it's like you want to support the community, you want to be there, and you want to find ways to be there and support them. And it's like, so you're like in this, it sounded as though it's like you're in this rock and hard place, like you just can't, you're stuck. It feels like a very stuck place to be. And so, again, Jeremy, I always thank you. And this is why I love speaking with you. You're very vulnerable and you're very honest about how these topics and how these very difficult circumstances really affect you. And I think when we think about solutions, it's like it's such a difficult situation. You talked about mental health, for example.
Mm-hmm.
What is we asked the question the other day, what does mental health actually look like? What does mental health support actually look like, right? And one of the things that I've been reading about and sort of, and there's been a lot of activism around this, but for example, in communities where there is violence, to not have the first responder be police, for example. And that's something that you talked about. Toronto, the city is not doing anything. What do you think about solutions like that?
Yeah, like I'm familiar with like a one situation where the cop shot somebody that was like going through some mental health crisis. So I do feel like that. Like, like why you didn't just shoot him in the foot or something? Why do you guys have to kill a guy, right? But I mean,
Are they even trained, right? That's the other thing, is like, are police officers even trained to be able to properly support in these types of instances, right? Mental health being one of them, trauma being another, whatever, however we want to kind of bucket it. And I'm really looking forward to doing some pilot programs in other metropolitan areas where instead of police being the first responders, it's actually mental health services, mental health supports for those instances. Because I think when police, like, there's a lot of research now that the police intervention actually doesn't help at all in
they
any.
don't help. Like even like let's even with Guyanese people, like you see like an incident where like a husband and a wife are arguing and they call the police on each other and they just mash up their own home. Like, the police do not help nothing, guys. Let's just get that clear. It's like okay, I'm not gonna say they don't do nothing. There's like stuff for them to do, and there's instances where they might save lives and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's like when in these communities, like for example, when the thing happened in my neighborhood, somebody from the city came to my door and they told me, yo, we want to have a community officer in your neighborhood. And then I told him like no. Like, because, like, don't try to plant yourselves over here now. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, we did the basketball tournament, and then they had the police brought their own team. They said, oh, they registered. I'm like, did you? Did you call the number on the flyer? Did you DM the Instagram? No, you didn't. They came slick. They came crept through the back. They had their uniforms and stuff. So, like, obviously, because everybody's there, I was like, okay, I made a way for like them to play like a 1-2 games, and I'm like, all right, you guys are kind of messing up our tournament like schedule and stuff. But like, what they don't understand is that like when they come to the neighborhood now, they might have a good cop like that wants to come through, and like maybe that guy, they might have that token black guy, that wants to come through and he plays basketball and he does the TikTok dances and he's like, I'm cool, guys. But at the end of the day, that guy is like, once he makes that phone call to his people, they're bringing like the real Babylon system on you. Like these guys that are ruthless. The police do not care about us. They just want to lock us up. They don't even care if we're right or wrong. They don't even care. They'll let you figure that out in court. You can sit up to 3 years wrongfully in jail waiting for a trial. And a lot of people can't afford the lawyer fee, so just plead guilty and just try to come home. So at the end of the day, the police don't realize when they come through, they're ruining lives. We do not have large amounts of money for lawyer fees. A lot of times we're not doing nothing wrong, you know? It's just like they just come and they mess up communities. And, you know, of course, like they need to be there for safety. That's what they told me for my basketball tournament. They're saying that um they don't want us to do it because they're worried about the public safety. So it's like the police were there. All right, everybody felt safe. I hope they did, you know? But at the end of the day, like if they started coming and harassing us now, then that defeats the purpose of community. Like if we can't feel safe in our own community, like who's the problem now? It's not no bad guys, it's you guys. You know, you guys come and you just bully people and they like you can't even go there and hang out. They just think you're like you're doing something. If I shake someone's hand, they think I'm doing a drug deal. You know, it's just crazy. They just assume the worst. And I don't know, like going back to your question, like it was just yeah, when it comes to mental health and stuff, like we need more stuff like more soft programs instead of like hard intervention type programs. You know, we need more like just outlets and like people with mental health, they might want to express themselves. They might want to make some music. They might want to dance. You know, like everyone has like their own outlet of expression. You know, so if you're telling someone, if a mental health person needs to express themselves outwardly and loudly, and it's just not normal to some people, people are not used to it. Nothing's wrong with that person, you know. Everyone's going through it. I go through it too. Like, and only now they started like acknowledging mental health, because back in the days or even in the neighborhood, if you tell someone, yeah, I got some mental health, they'll be like, whatever, you know, like they don't take that stuff seriously. But now I notice like there's people that they have sick days and mental health days, and so whatever they're doing right now, it's like I guess it's more like becoming like the awareness of it. But yeah, like this comment right here, shout out my boy Leo. There's not enough options for people with mental health. Like there's nothing else. Like even if you go to jail, you have mental health. You know, nobody's gonna treat you special. If you know, people are just slapping these guys, boxing them up. You know, they're not getting to use the phone or nothing. So at the end of the day, it's like it's not fair. You know, the police can't just judge people and just deal with people like that, because like it's a disregard for life. Everyone's still a human, you know, regardless of how you behave, you know.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the policing, it feels almost paradoxical, where it's like in a certain segment of people it provides some sort of psychological safety, when in another segment of people it's actually very traumatizing to have police presence, based on the ways in which they end up being victims of how to stereotypes and to ways in which police end up ineffectively policing. And so I'm going to read some comments before we move forward with the last couple questions. Self-worth Batty says poverty to prison pipeline is too real in vulnerable and marginalized communities. It definitely is. And like when we talk about, low income earners, when we talk about poverty, is how are those issues really being addressed, right? ArcY9X says parents not paying enough attention to their kids. And I think that there's so many things going on when we talk about issues like violence in communities, and it's like a 10-prong system just to raise one child right, And so Shabita says, thank you for sharing so courageously. You're seen and heard. Thank you so much for that, Shabita. She also says, this is real talk that isn't properly communicated in our media. What do you need to continue doing this important work? That Leo guy says, a lot of people are traumatized of police because of the way they handle situations. Yep. And one bad apple spoils the bunch. The police honestly harass more than they protect. There isn't enough options for people with mental health. It's always the same textbook solution, no matter what the person is going through. Yeah, how we handle mental health our mental wellness in itself is such an issue in society. Blue-eyed warrior 82 says, Jeremy, you're still beeping powerful. Your truth and vulnerability is deeply respected. I agree. Be a
Yeah.
good kid is enough. Being a good kid is enough. World is crazy when good kids are being killed. Yeah. Jeremy, I don't know if you wanted to say anything after any of those comments.
I mean, yeah, shout out to everybody that commented. I see everybody. Shout out Robbie Khan, Jay Lucci, Leo, Lindsay. Like, honestly, like, I've been a victim of police brutality myself, you know? And when I was very young, probably like 14, 15 years old, I was beaten badly, you know? And it's a very long story, so I won't really get into it. You know, I don't want to relive that stuff, you know? But at the end of the day, like like I just want everybody to know that like, you know, we're trying, you know, like there's guys like me trying out there, you know, and I'm not even like the best guy in the world, but I think what I'm doing is trying, you know, and that's all you can really do. And I just wish more people would step up like that, you know, because you might have a guy that could buy a Rolex, but you know, what's going on in the hood, like right now after the little violence in the hood, the kids aren't coming outside no more, you know, so it's not the same, you know, and my neighborhood has like very little violence compared to the other neighborhoods in Toronto, you know? So if we're going to keep it Toronto, like I'm going to keep it real Toronto right now. You know, imagine if you're in a neighborhood like Regent Park, or if you're in an area like Driftwood or The Lane or Rexdale, or like one of these very, very like poverty stricken neighborhoods. It's hard for you like once you belong to these areas and you're a little bit caught up a little bit, you know, like that's the thing, you don't even need to be caught up a lot in Toronto. Just a little tiny little bit is enough to either get in trouble with the law or get in trouble with people, you know. So like it makes it hard for people from these areas to even get a job now. You can't really work in a public establishment like that, you know. Maybe you could work at a warehouse or a factory where nobody really sees you like that, you know. But then like it just limits you, like, and that's what I hate, like that coming from these neighborhoods is such a disadvantage, because now that I go to college and I hang out downtown and I see like all these other privileged kids that they don't even acknowledge their privilege or whatever until they see someone like me, and they'll be like, yo, I'm privileged, and they'll tell you that proudly, like, we're privileged, yo, like, you know. And I'm just like, I don't get it. What is privilege? I have no idea. I have no clue what that means. You know, I'm privileged to have my family and my mom and dad, and none of my cousins have a mom and dad like that. They just have mom, you know. So like just having mom and dad, I feel privileged. But to someone else, their privilege is their dad owns a mansion and boats, and they can get a job through their family business or whatever, you know, where me, as a person with a criminal record, it's harder to get a job and stuff like that, you know? So, I mean, yeah, I just want more people to be inspired by me coming on here and speaking vulnerably and sharing whatever I'm sharing. I want people to just like take that, you know, like don't take me for granted either. You know, I want people to like, you know, appreciate what I'm doing, because I won't always be here. Not to say that something's gonna happen to me, but I mean like life goes on, and like I'm trying to like be big in life, you know. I'm trying to travel the world. I'm trying to like, you know, make it in this film industry. So like, you know, while I'm here in the community helping, I just wanted to like just highlight that it's very discouraging at times when you're trying to do something positive and there's just so much people trying to like leech off the neighborhood in a way. Because say if we do get some funding and you tell people you have funding or whatever, then people will hike up the prices on you and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that my eyes are open to. I don't want to expose nobody or nothing. I'm not here for that. But it's just like it was it was mind blowing to me that okay, so when these neighborhoods they need stuff, and then when they get it, it's like it's not going to who it needs to go to. It might go to a select few, and then like there's so much that gets me so upset with when it comes to like the disconnect between like whatever help we're supposed to be getting and the youth. The youth need the help, like and even the big man them need the help. Real talk. Like I'm 33 years old and I still live in the hood and I don't even have a job. I just go to school right now. And I'm just trying to say, if I'm just figuring it out now, you can't give up on somebody that's 30 or 27 or 24 that hasn't figured it out yet. And these kids need help from their like 12. You know what I'm saying? Like these kids are picking up guns from their 12 years old, 13, 14. As like young as that sounds, like it's just like that nowadays. So like shout out to Robbie Khan. He's saying stop the violence. It's a beautiful world. And I'm gonna say this. I went to Jamaica for the first time this summer and it was like my first vacation. And like I went to Guyana before when I was 12 years old. I was kind of young. Like I didn't get to really enjoy it as much as I wanted to. But I went to Jamaica and I swear to God, like it was a life-changing experience. And I would encourage everyone to go on a trip or something like that. And even better if we could take youth from the hood and bring them on trips. And we need to bring these youth out of the circumference of the hood. You know what I'm saying? Because like Toronto is full of hoods. They made it like that. They knew they had this in mind that this neighborhood would be for this neighborhood, and we're gonna paint this building red and paint that building blue. Like this stuff was predetermined. Like when they made Jane and Finch and all these buildings, and they made it congested. They're like, yo, the lower class is gonna live here, you know. And then when you go down past Steeles, you're gonna have the higher upper class over there. So I just want a fair chance. I don't want this disadvantage for my kids, you know, and stuff like that. My dad did came to Canada, so I wouldn't grow up in Guyana and have that disadvantage or whatever what he had to face. So we're still leveling up in life, but we're not there. I'm first generation Canadian. So I gotta set the foundation for my future. But it's not gonna go right if I'm messing around and I'm throwing my life away, going to jail and stuff. So like I had to like figure that out for myself one day and make up my mind too that I don't want to go back to jail, and I want to do something with my life. So that takes a lot of self-searching too. So I just want all that I just said right there. I just want that to sink in with somebody right now. And I want somebody to get inspired to just, it's not even to be a perfect person. I'm not a saint. I'm just me, and I just believe that, like my influence could impact somebody. I don't know who, but I know it'll impact somebody, because there's people that impacted me, and I just want to keep that positive energy around me. And anybody that's not on that positivity, they can get blocked and deleted. I don't care. I'm not begging for nobody's friendship. I don't care who thinks anything about me. I don't care nothing. Like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm very comfortable in my own skin. And I'm proud to be Guyanese and Indo-Caribbean. You know what I'm saying?
I
Straight
love
up.
that. I love that. And this is one of the things that just is I admire personally. And I think that even if after this live one person watches this, which there will be more people that your live last year was, one of our top watched lives. But I think what you're saying and what you're doing is going resonates with people. And so, for example, here Shabita says your voice will continue to serve you well. Continue to honor yourself in the wonderful ways you are serving. Your blessings are in your favor. You're already winning, boss. Sending you lots of love. And not trying to be political, but with the election coming up, these are crucial topics to bring up to your local officials, then keep them accountable to these conversations. That is true.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot in that last kind of segment that we talked about. And so teasing out of that, um, just going back to some summarize for me based on your conversations, sort of your experience within community, what are some solutions from your perspective that we can like hone in on?
Yeah. So like at first, that's what I tried to do with the commitment program. I tried to have like kind of like a big brother kind of thing for the youths because I felt like the youths need someone that they could relate to. Cause with young people, it's like this. It's like they could look at someone old and be like, "Oh, you're old or you're washed up. What do you know?" And we could be telling them, "Yo, what do you mean? I was just in high school. What do you know?" So there's like a big divide, and I feel like the solutions would come from like more leaders, like that are willing to step up and just lead by example and just keep it real and keep it 100. We need more funding. We need more funding for activities and events in the neighborhood. This year, I did get a grant from the city of Toronto to do my basketball tournament. However, it took somebody to get murdered in my neighborhood to get that money. So that's something that needs to get looked at too, because it shouldn't take that to get some funding, real talk, and that's exactly what we need. Like right now, we need programs, we need safe spaces, we need these things. Like, and when I start saying these solutions, like some people will tell me focus on one thing, like you have all these ideas, focus on one thing and just do it, but like I'm just brainstorming at the moment, and I think like yo, if we can give like the youth free education, that would help too. Because like some people, a lot of kids have talent. They just need to tap into it. Like they don't know what they like yet. And that's okay. Cause I didn't know what I liked until I was about like almost like 30 years old. Then I went to school for film. The whole time I was working construction and I was kind of miserable because I just wanted to provide for my family. So I just think kids need or the youth need to like see what opportunities are there. They need to travel past the border of their neighborhoods and like feel safe doing it as well. And yeah, there needs to just be like yeah, just more opportunities overall. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I was to ask somebody right now that lost their job, yeah, like I have a couple friends right now that are looking for jobs, and like it's hard. Like
Yeah.
I know some communities they have like job um like youth centers and stuff like that. My community doesn't have that.
And you go back to one of the things that you mentioned. Two things I'll touch on here, but one of it is leadership within the community. And everyone who's watching here, I think we all can take that back and understand how we can play a certain role within our community. And it doesn't need to look like what Jeremy is doing. It's like if you have a space where you have some sort of influence, how can you brainstorm and think about how you can bring attention to these topics, how you can volunteer, how you can be part of certain organizations, what feels right for you. We might be surprised at how many people within our own family units, within our Indo-Caribbean community that needs support, and you know uh, we can affect change by just having conversations with everyone. And I think I love the fact that you brought that up, Jeremy, because we underestimate our value and we think it's somebody else's problem, right? We think it's somebody else will do something else, we'll create a program, we'll do a webinar, we'll send money here. And it's like, how do we in our own lives sit down and see how we have influence within our circle of within our family, within our communities where we live, and not leave it to somebody else to do something one day, right? And I think the other thing that you had mentioned is through funding and community support. One of the things that I think is really interesting is like, so there you find so many instances where funding is cut for certain programs that deeply affect the youth within community, right? And that's usually one of the first things to get sliced out of the budgets, right? And so what I would love to see too is some of these programs being facilitated by people who come from certain lived experiences, right? You run a program, you run a workshop where these youth don't relate to the people facilitating them, and the facilitators don't understand the needs of the youth in the community at large. And I think those are some of the things that I've seen that have sort of like, that needs a different approach, right? So wherever we can affect change within our own communities, and the things we can do to make a difference, I think is always helpful. And
Yeah.
Jeremy, I think the great work that you're doing within your community is really inspiring. So at very least, I hope that anybody watching this, one of the things that you mentioned to me is like, and that's resonating a lot with me, is like this feeling of one person can't do it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing a lot for your community, and I know that there's a sense of responsibility there. And so if we can all bear that responsibility of looking at how we can support community, I think that in itself would be so helpful. The other thing that I want to touch on before we drop off, because we're at the hour, and again, Jeremy, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. And I think at very least, if I was to transcribe this live, I think that there could be like 54 recommendations for people that can be executed when it comes to some of the solutions here for violence and trauma in our communities. But before you hop off, I want to just invite anyone, if you have any questions, drop it in the comments. But what would be some of your last words for anyone watching, for anyone who may watch this, who could be or have been affected by violence within their community?
I think now that like it's happening, we have to realize that it's not like made up. This stuff is really going on. This stuff is really going on. People are really dead. And so like what it is like we need to like not kind of prepare for it, but everyone needs to like just move smarter. We only have one life to live. So everyone needs to stop playing around like life is promised, and you need to reach out to your loved ones and check on people. I encourage people to get life insurance. I seen Jay Lucci just posted something like that, and we have to just be smarter about this stuff. And anyone that is affected by violence, I just want to say, yo, like I feel your pain, and I have that empathy for you. And if there's anybody on here that really like needs someone to talk to, or whatever, you could even reach out to me, I guess. And I just want like everyone to just know that it's not just gonna stop. Like while I was saying like we need more leaders, because a lot of youth, it has to be cool. Like if it's not cool, then they don't want to do it. It's like they're trapped in their situation. If they got peer pressure and they got their friends and everybody's doing something and they don't have no other alternative, then then that's all they're gonna do. So we have to create. I want to create that narrative where we start thinking like that, where we can create spaces. Like right now, I'm at my school. My school's open till 11 p.m. and it opens at 7 a.m. This is a safe space for me. I can come in here. I can walk in any room I want. I can use any computer I want. I can do whatever I want here, and I'm safe over here. And I just feel like I got that opportunity. And so like I want other people to know that like you can have that opportunity too, because like there are resources out here that our city gives out and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, like everyone just like, you don't know, like it's germs. I'm kind of lost for words at the moment, because like I am traumatized by everything going on as well. I'm trying to be careful about what I say sometimes because I just don't want to offend nobody. Sometimes you got to be very careful about what you say, right? And I know mothers are grieving right now, and there's people that could look at me and say that, hey, in the past I was part of the problem as well, you know. But I take responsibility too. Like, you know, I have remorse too, and I'm just here trying to play my part and do my part, you know. And you know, I just want to shout out some people that inspire me as well. Like, shout out to my younger brother Joel. You know, he was a big inspiration to my change because I seen him change first. You know, and he set the example for me. You know, so like, shout out to my little brother and shout out to everyone that helps me in the community. Shout out to Lisa. She's the community leader. Shout out to Kyria. She's like a community leader in Jungle that helps us out in Village. Shout out to my boy TG. He's the one that helped me get the grant this year. He wrote the grant for me. Yeah, we need more grant writers. You know, we need more people to help us to write grants that don't want to change for themselves. And you know, some people they write the grants a way where, you know, they pay themselves and this and that. Like, we need more people that are selfless, like helpers. You know, that just want to help and just, you know, I know right now time is money and stuff like that, but we need people that are willing to donate their time. You know, it's not all about money, you know. So also just want to shout out to like a couple of last people, I guess, you know, shout out to X Collective. You know, that's a brand. They're always doing like positive stuff in the neighborhood too. I don't know. Shout out to Jay Lucci with the Parker conversation. She has some socks right now. Walk with purpose. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to everybody from Village and everyone from the city of Toronto. Like, I know what it is. Like, I'm very well aware of what's going on. I watch the news every day because like that's my that's like my sports. I watch the news just to see if one of my family members or one of my people's got hurt or something, you know? And this is my reality. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to escape that mentality. You know what I'm saying? So it's very hard, but what I find strength in is like entrepreneurs and like I read books written by entrepreneurs, you know, and I try to like live my life like them, like as in like I try to wake up early before the sun. I try to write down all my goals, to-do lists. You know, I have short-term goals, long-term goals, and yeah, I try to just, you know, I'm not perfect, but every day I try, you know. So I encourage everyone to just try and like, you know what I'm saying? Life is hard sometimes. I snap sometimes, I lose it sometimes, you know. But right now I'm just reminded like I have a purpose in life and I'm here for a reason. And I never came this far just to mess up and throw it all away. You know, I'm here for a real reason. It's very deep, you know, and I don't know what it is. I'm very spiritual. I believe in God. So I know God has a plan for me. And even being a Guyanese man, like I feel like it's hard for a Guyanese man to even get ratings out here. You know, a lot of the Guyanese man them out here, they get laughed or made fun of or whatever. But you know, like I'm here representing. You know what I mean? I'm here like everyone that I mess with, all my Guyanese brothers. Like I mess with I know the real ones. You know, so I'm just saying like I hate when people try to like down us because of my ethnicity or whatever. So that's why I'm standing on it. I'm standing up as a Toronto man that's Guyanese. I'm here, like, you know, and I'm here, like, trying to help out and do whatever I can, you know, and I'm only one person. So that's why, like, I want people to just join with me and, like, anything we're doing, like, say Christmas is coming up, we're going to be doing some giveaways or whatever we end up doing. Like, everyone just pull up, everyone get involved, you know. Even when I have a live like this, I'm sharing it. I told everyone, share it, man. Come out, support, because I need support. Like I'm that type of person where someone shows me like uh like gives me like support, like, oh, you're doing a good job or whatever. You know, like I need that reassurance sometimes, you know? So it's like, yeah, you know, I just want more people to just to run with me on this because, you know, like I like, yo, this like right now I'm working with the prisoners too, like, you know, and I'm trying to like uh do these things where like, you know, they could change the criminal record from being 10 years to 5 years, right? Because like we don't want people reoffending. We don't want people back in the system. Like my boy just had a sentencing today, and they gave him 6 years. You know what I'm saying? So there's a thin line between the outside world and jail. So I just want to encourage everyone to just try something good. Try to go to school, tap into your talents. You know what I'm saying? And tap into the people that are trying to like do better things. You know what I mean? Because like the other stuff is always there. You know what I mean? And the other stuff will just get you killed out here. And like I've seen my boy get killed right in front of my street, and there's no chance. There's no chance for him to run. There's no chance for him to shoot back, even if he had a gun. Those guys had switches. They switched them up. Boom, dead. So that's how quick your life could be gone. So everyone needs to just realize that don't take me talking for granted right now. Like every word I'm saying means something. It's coming from my heart right now. Your life is that precious. So just don't waste your life, you
Mm.
know,
And
because I,
Jeremy,
I wasted a lot of it, but right now I'm here with you, right? So that says enough.
yeah, and I was just about to say, Jeremy, I think that every time we have one of these lives, I'm completely enthralled and admire the way in which you present yourself in such an eloquent way that really resonates with the people that are listening. And I think one of the comments we have here is, um, you know, God is working with you and through you. And I think you mentioned this previously. This live is not happening by accident. You're not doing this work by accident. None of this is by accident. And so, anyone who's listening and anyone who is inspired, it just takes one step to be in community and to figure out how you can create space and how you can affect change. And Jeremy, I just want to thank you honestly from the bottom of my heart, for all the work that you do within community, the vulnerability that you bring when we have these conversations, and the ideas and thoughts and the reflections that you bring that now people get to sit with and resonate with, and it gets to be shared and it gets to be heard, especially particularly in our community where we think that these things don't affect us. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for being you, and it's really a privilege for me to be in this space with you, and to hear you speak. It's always amazing. And Spree says, "I've seen your progress in your faith. Uncle Joel would be proud." And
Yeah,
Shabia says, "Yes,
peace.
never a waste. Focus on the lessons that you've learned, and will continue serving you." And Leanna says, "You're an inspiration." And um, I can't say that enough, Jeremy. I think that, once we get off this live and it becomes, in the hands of other people through the platform, I think it's gonna resonate well with our community. So I thank you so much for being here and for sharing
Yeah,
with
I'm
our
honored
community.
as well. Like I'm very honored to be on your platform. Like we went to school together, and it's just amazing to see that like people that we grew up with are doing so much impactful things. And that's just so powerful that like that we just we came from the same upbringings and stuff, but like we went different ways, but now we could connect back to like whatever comes out of it. Because like just me speaking, I'm pretty sure there's two types of people. There's people that know more than me, and there's people that probably never knew stuff like this. So I just want everyone to just know, like, just don't judge me, and just take everything that I said, like it takes a lot for me to share. So yeah. So just
Well,
just take
the
my
people
words.
who would be inclined to judge you is not people that we'd want listening on this. I mean, this is not
Nah,
the,
for sure.
the
They don't
audience.
matter still, yeah.
But I feel like, Jeremy, and we're all showing up in community in different ways, and life just comes full circle in whatever way it ends up providing us opportunity, like us having this conversation this year and the one we had last year. And, you know, whatever we can do for you, please let us know. How can people stay connected to you, and what supports can they offer you?
Well, you can stay connected to me through this Instagram. I mean, I'm actually trying to take a break from Instagram. Like, yeah, I'm trying to just kind of laser focus on what's right in front of me right now, which is like my final year of school. But anyone could still DM me. I mean, I'm such a real guy. Like, I'll give my number out right now. I don't care, like, you know. But let's just keep it to the IG right now. DM me. Feel free. Like, yeah, feel free. Reach out. I'm very approachable. You know, don't worry about I might look intimidating, whatever. Like, I'm a very nice guy. You know, don't let the image fool you, you know? Like, I've been through so much that right now I'm just living with a different purpose, you know? So, and I just want to reflect that back. Like, you know, I'm here to give back whatever I could give, because I ain't got no money like that to give, but hey, I got me. I'll give you all of me, you know?
That's what the world needs, Jeremy, is your spirit, right? But with all that being said, Jeremy also runs basketball tournaments, and you can stay connected with him on Instagram. Sometimes you have call outs for volunteers, sponsors
Yeah.
for some of your programs. So do look out for that anytime Jeremy posts that on various Instagram platforms. And again, Jeremy said before, we all have our own spaces, our own sphere of influence, and it's not on the back of people like Jeremy to um, to make change. It's part of all of us to see how we can affect change within our communities and not think that it only affects a certain demographic of people. So, Jeremy, again, I thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being in conversation with me. We'll connect. I'm sure there's lots of work that will bring us together in the future. So, thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Anna. It was a pleasure. And everybody, thank you for joining. Every single person that joined, it means a lot to me. Trust me. I really appreciate the support.
All right. Well, until next time, Jeremy, we'll talk soon.
All
Thank you,
right. Thank
everyone,
you.
for joining. Take care.
Peace out.
Bye.